Hi there, folks. Hey, this video is about something that happened a couple weeks ago here where this agent came to me and said, hey, my competition is going to my prospective client and my competition is pitching this product to my prospective client in a dirtbag manner. And Charlie, can we help this client understand what it is that they're pitching? We did that, and ultimately we sold that client, or the client bought. We didn't sell anything. We just explained it to the client. But because we didn't explain it in a dirtbag manner, we didn't do it the way our competition did it, they ended up buying this exact same product from us. So let me back up and explain from the beginning what happened. This agent of mine, wonderful agent, he's newer to the annuity business, came to me and said, Charlie, so this prospect of mine was in I think it was a Chamber of Commerce meeting or something, not related to finance, but in that same meeting is one of my longtime competitors. This financial professional ended up talking with my client at this meeting or after this meeting and ended up telling my client that he has a solution that will give my client 10% guaranteed per year. 10% guaranteed per year. And I said, well, have you yet found out what product it is, what annuity it is that agent was talking with your prospective client about? He gave me the name of the product. I said, that's a good, heck, we offer that product, a lot of that product. Not in the context that this agent explained it to him. He goes, well, yeah, that context, I'm having a hard time explaining to the client just how all the GLWB, the accumulation value. So can we set up a call with this client to where you discuss how it's not a true 10% guaranteed per year as this agent explained it to the client? And I said, yeah, this reminds me of the agent was probably 100% correct, is 100% correct when he throws out that there's a 10% guarantee. But I liken this to the story that I tell a lot of my 4-year-old and my 1-year-old sitting in the living room. I'm just across from the living room, able to see what my 4-year-old and 1-year-old are doing. My wife is downstairs. She doesn't see anything here, but I'm doing my work and I'm able to observe what they're doing. My 4-year-old grabs a plastic ball, winds up, and freaking like Nolan Ryan throws it right off the side of Matthew's head. It makes a big crack. Probably didn't hurt, but the noise is probably what scared Matthew, who was 1 at the time, the most. He starts screaming and yelling like Seth just shot him. And immediately my wife from downstairs starts yelling at Seth because she knows that Seth just hurt him or whatever. And she says this. She yells up, says, Seth, did you just hit your brother? Did you just hit your brother? And Seth was smart, even at 4, right? And I could tell he's thinking. And he yells back down, no, Mommy, I did not hit Matthew. I didn't hit Matthew. Seth was 100% telling the truth. But what Seth also knew was the spirit of what my wife was asking was, did you hurt your brother? But Seth chose not to answer that question because technically my wife said, did you hit your brother? No, he didn't hit his brother. He threw something at his brother, right? This selective language happens a lot in the annuity business. And unfortunately, these wonderful, wonderful, wonderful products that we ultimately offered this client, they're wonderful. They don't need the BS. They don't need the dirtbag sales pitches because they will sell if you explain it appropriately to this client. And by not pitching the client in a dirtbag manner, we ultimately got the sale for the exact same product that agent was offering the client. So let me explain when we got the client on the phone what I explained to that client, which was a prospective client at the time, which we'll call Mike for purposes of this call. I said, okay, so here is how your money actually grows, right? Let's say you have the stock market. So put aside the annuity. Let's just say you have the stock market. And the stock market in 1 year goes down 20%. And another year goes up 25%. Kind of sounds a little bit like 2022 and 2023, right? So maybe this is fresh. Maybe that wound is still open a little bit. I know it is for a lot of consumers. Well, if you were in that stock market, you rode a bit of a roller coaster. And by the way, you are merely back to where you started. Yes, negative 20, positive 25 equals 0. Negative 50, positive 100 equals 0. And I could go on and on with the mathematics here. You're merely back to where you started. Now, this is how your money within the indexed annuity works. First of all, we have guaranteed rate annuities that will usually beat say bank rates, for example. Today, I can guarantee you, at the time, it was like 6% guaranteed for 5 years. Heck, 6% guaranteed for 3 years. So we can give you a 6% rate, but these indexed annuities, which is what XYZ was talking with you about, here is how they work, is in the year where the market dropped, you would not have lost 1 penny of your money. So you'd get a 0 on your statement, a 0 on your statement. Is that a guarantee of 10%? No! You're not guaranteed 10% on your accumulation value. And I'll talk with you about the differences here. You're not guaranteed 10% of the accumulation value. Are you sure? Well, here's the name of the product. I know what the product is. Yes, and you're not guaranteed 10% on the accumulation value. We'll get to the 10% part here in a bit. But then in that next year, a couple weeks ago, the cap was around 8%. I don't remember exactly what, 8.5%. But in that next year, when the market goes up 25%, you're going to get 8%. Now, that's nothing to set the world on fire over here, 8% over 2 years, but it might be better than the alternative, right? So in short, what your product has is the ability to outperform fixed rates, the potential to outperform fixed rates, but yet at the same time, when the market crashes, you're not going to get negative 20%. By the way, should the market crash in that third year here, do you lose 1 penny of what you previously gained? The answer to that question is absolutely no. So let's just clear the air here. That is how your money grows. Now, however, there is an additional benefit that with this product, well, it comes with a product automatically. It does have a cost. That cost is a little more than 100 basis points, or 1%, as I talk with clients about. Not basis points. Clients are like, basis what? So there is this extra benefit, and this is the meat of the product right here. So that is how your money grows, but there's an additional benefit here. And I use the same example for every consumer that I talk with GLWBs about. So let's say that you're 63 years of age, you want to retire 2 years from now at age 65. And again, forget the annuity. Let's say you were in the stock market, stocks and bonds, whatever. You have $100,000. So based off of everything going well between now and 2 years from now, and I'm going through this kind of fast. I'm not talking with you about what the questions were that the clients get, but I know every time what questions we're going to get, which is a topic for another call. If everything goes well, you cross your fingers, you hope and pray. What is a not too conservative, not too aggressive rate of return that you kind of hope your $100,000 goes to? Even though it can go to $80,000, right? It can go to $50,000, but you crossed your fingers, you hoped and prayed. Everything went to your expectation. Most of the time people say, what about 5% per year, 7% per year, whatever? I say, usually I'll use 5% per year because that's the math that I've already done. So we got to stick to 5% per year. Then at that point in time, what's the old rule of thumb? What's the rule of thumb? How much can you withdraw from your portfolio at that point in time? Again, so far, everything has gone to our wishes in our stock and bond portfolio. Yes, the old rule of thumb is 4%. Which means $4,400 in that year, right? Technically, that $4,400 is calculated to adjust with inflation each year thereafter, which I won't go into right now, but $4,400. What if I said, forget all that hoping, praying, the fingers crossed, forget all of that. Here is what these annuities do, or this particular annuity does. So forget the $4,400, forget the hoping and praying for 5% per year. Your $100,000, in this case, your $100,000, and technically this client was 60, wanting income around 66, but I still use this 2-year example to simplify it. Your $100,000 from an income base standpoint, an income value standpoint, yes, absolutely. 10% simple per year, which is $120,000 over that 2-year period of time. And by the way, when you go to take in, and this is guaranteed, this is the 10% guarantee that this other financial professional was talking about. Can you take your $120,000 and cash it out at that point in time? No, you cannot. And I could tell that that our prospect here was like, yeah, that's not the way that this guy told me that it would work. But just hold on, because this is still a beautiful thing, as I'm about to explain here, right? So $120,000 at that point in time, and the payout factor, is it 4%? No. I think it was 6. Today it's 7%, but at the time it was 6.5%, so 0.065%. So $120,000 times 0.065%. I'm going off memory here. What is that? Is that $7,800 going off memory from the call? you get it. It's basically double. Right here is basically double. Our hoping and praying with the stocks and bonds. Although the inflation conversation not being on $7,800, that's a side conversation we had. But the point is here is Mr. Prospect. If you want income ultimately, as you do to supplement your Social Security, this is the way that 10% works. That 10% is not as simple as, oh, you get 10% on your money, period, and then just leave the conversation at that, even though the selective language with some folks out there kind of indicate that, very much suggest that. That's not the way that 10% works. And I'm telling you how the product works because you know what? These products don't need the fluffery in order to be sold. Now, so how does all this come together? Because usually the client, is a little confused. Well, Charlie did that first chart. He did the second thing there. How does all this come together? So what I just explained to you, Mr. Prospect, is this. Here's what I just explained to you. You put in $100,000 and let's say the market does this, does that, does this, does that, does this. That's the stock market, right? Does this, does that. Again, how is your actual money credited? Well, in the first year, you don't lose a penny. In the next year, you get up to a cap. The next year, you don't lose a penny. The next year, you get up to a cap. The next year, you don't. So that's how your money works, right? And at any point in time, you can cash this out. Just beware that it has a 10% surrender charge schedule, right? At any point in time, you can cash that out. Ideally, you should not cash it out within the first 10 years. Ideally, you shouldn't cash it out because this is for lifetime income. That's the first value that I explained at the beginning of this call. There is no 10% on that first value, right? And that's also the death benefit. The second value here, that is the guaranteed growth of 10% per year. And at any point in time when you want to take income, which in your example, it's like age 66, you take income there. What happens is the company will calculate what did that benefit base grow to times a payout factor that is pretty darn attractive, and you get that payment, whatever that end result is, say $8,000 per year, for example, for the rest of your life. That is how this product works. Is this second value, the top value, is what that 10% is based off of. Then you get into a bunch of questions like, what if I take $8,000 twice? For example, 2 years, I die, what do my beneficiaries get? Yeah, well, the old Susie Orman crap. You lose all control with annuities. There is no death benefit. The company keeps your money. No, once you start taking income, here's what happens to your accumulation value. Is unless that accumulation value is getting a return that's greater than what you're taking out of it, it's going to decrease. So the answer to your question of what your beneficiaries get if you only take a few payments and pass away, they get whatever the balance is on your accumulation value side, right? Now, here's the beauty. Here's what you're buying. Here's what you're buying for an additional 100 basis points or so. 1%. Don't talk about basis points with clients. For an additional 1% is you are getting longevity insurance. So for instance, what do you think happens to your $8,000 when your accumulation value hits zero? What happens to your $8,000? And this is my favorite part on the illustration to point out, by the way, year 15 or whatever. I assume the $8,000 quits. No, it doesn't. That's the point of all this. This is longevity insurance. That $8,000 goes on forever and ever and ever, even after your accumulation value hits zero. By the end of this call, what the consumer ended up saying was, I'm a heck of a lot more comfortable with you guys than I am the other guy. And yes, I need income. And if this product is one of the top products out there from an income standpoint, then let's do it. And we did it. And that's how you turn a dirtbag sales pitch into a sale on your side by not being a dirtbag. I'd rather be destitute than be known as a dirtbag.